there, this is Vahid from the Art of Education channel, and welcome to another session of design patterns in C++ and Qt framework. We talked about decorator pattern in previous session, and today I want to show you another example, a real world example about how we can use decorator pattern to extend the functionalities of an object or a service. So it's very useful. Most of the time we need to extend object behaviors, so we need to use decorator pattern. As we already know, it's a structural design pattern, and let us attach new behaviors to an existing object by placing object inside a special wrapper. So sometimes we refer to this pattern by wrapper keyword. If you didn't watch the previous session, I suggest to watch it first and then continue on this one. Today we are going to use another example. Let's see what we are going to implement in this session. I want to write some data into a file in my application. So I create a file data source class that inherits from a base class named data source. Here we have two methods, write data and read data. And I can use an instance of this class to write some messages or some text inside a file very easily. But sometimes I need to compress data before writing them into a file, or reading or uncompress the data when I read them from a file. And also in other scenarios I want to encrypt data, so I want to prevent the end user to see what I wrote in a file in file system. So I create a data source decorator. Again, this decorator implement from the same class or same interface as the file data source, our target class. And then here I create two other decorators named compression decorator and encryption decorator. And also I can combine them together, chain them together, and sometimes maybe I want to encrypt data and then compress data and write them inside a file. So I can have a chain of decorator alongside with my target class or our concrete component class and use them in a chain. So let's go to Qt Creator and implement this structure in Qt project. If you are new to this tutorial, I should tell you that I created a project, a Qt widget application project for demo purposes, and add each pattern in a separate folder in this project. So and also I pushed it to my GitHub repository, so you can download it and work with the patterns code on your local machine. Here we have all the patterns that I already talked about them in this tutorial, and today I'm gonna add files for decorator underline 2 folder. So here first of all, and also we have a main entrance here, main window, and for each pattern I'm gonna add a button here. So by clicking on this button we redirect to a folder related to this pattern, and we can see a client and another relation between the classes that we need for that patterns. So let's create another button here. The name is decorator 2, and also let's change the name, between decorator underline 2, that's okay. And we will get back to this form later when we want to create the path between this button and our client class for decorator second sample. And that's it. So let's add a file, add new file. For demo purpose I just use Qt Designer item model. It's decorator 2 demo dialog. Let's also change the name, and I'm gonna save it inside a folder. I already created it inside this path, decorator underline 2, and let's add it. So it's okay. And also let's change the name from dialog to decorator second sample. And as final step, let's create a click handler or click slot for this widget, and copy these two codes, paste it here. This time we need to create an instance of decorator 2 demo dialog, and Decorator. Let's see what we have. Oops, there's a misspelling. It's not important. Let's change it to this one, and also import the header files and show the dial. So that's it. Let's run or build the application. Okay, everything is just fine. Let's close all the files and go to this directory. So we need to create a couple of classes. First, we need the base class as our interface or the class that contains the methods that I need to work with our target class and also decorators. So I'm gonna name it. Let's see, what was the name? The name is data source. So I'm gonna create a class named data source. This time we are going to use C++ class. And if you're not familiar with Qt and Qt application widgets, it's not important. I just use this template as our demo project, and I'm gonna create classes and files needed for each pattern in C++. So you can apply it to any C++ application if you want. Here we have a data source class. I'm gonna change the name also. Okay. Here we need to declare two methods. First, we need to write data, and I'm going to pass a string parameter named data here, and also I'm going to return data from a file, and that's it. We don't need any parameter here. Let's include this string here. And because I need to have these methods in other classes that inherit from this class, I need to make it virtual and also virtual, and assign it to 0. So it's a pure virtual function. Virtual. Oops. So using this approach, we enforce other classes to implement these two methods. That's it. Let's add our file data source class. This is our target class that we mainly use this one. So we need to have this one, and we just attach behavior to this class. So it's file data source, and inherit from data source class. Oops. And also change the name. So that's it. Here we need to insert two virtual functions. Write data and read data, add also definition for them inside the CPP file. Here I need to work with a file, and also let's get a file name, qstring file name, inside the constructor, and I'm gonna save it inside a local variable or a member parameter, and file name, file name. That's it. So I'm gonna open this file and write data to this file, and also read from this also. Now let's do this. I'm gonna create a Q file, underline file here, bring the header file. Let's make it as a pointer. So I'm going to create it inside the constructor equal to new Q file, and what's the path is the file name. We need it as a path, and also let's create a destructor for this class, and inside destructor I'm gonna close the file and also delete file. And here in constructor I forgot to open it. Underline file dot open. So what's the flag we're going to use? Okay, append. I'm going to use the append, so I'm able to add data to that file and also read from the beginning of the file. here let's see what we have inside the Q file. Okay. And right now, let's see what we are going to do. I'm going to write some data. So let's do it in an abstract way. This time I'm gonna just write something inside the console output, QDebug, the message, okay, or the data. I just write it inside. Let's also add this header file, QDebug, and I'm gonna print the data into the console, and also let's write it inside a file, underline file dot write data. So we need to use the data dot to UTF-8. So this is gonna return a qbyte array, so we can easily write it to the file. And also let's call the flush method. And in the read data, I'm gonna return underline file dot read all. And let's also cast it to a QString, or create a string based on this data and return it to our client. So let's get back to our client's dialog. Here I'm gonna add a couple of buttons. First, first button is write normal, and also I'm gonna call read normal, and this one is close. So let's change the name respectively, btn write normal, and this one is btn close, and this one is btn read normal. And also let's add a text edit widget here, act as our console. Text edit, no, text console. Okay, that's it. And also I want to attach or connect the signal, click signal of this button to reject of dialog. So we're able to get back to the main window. And inside the write normal and read normal, go to start. Let's create a class for this demo. The name is file data source underline data source. Bring the header file and instantiate it inside the constructor. Underline data source equal to new file data source, and the file is a.txt. Here let's add also a text edit, a line edit this time. So the name is ln data. Now inside the method, inside the write method, I'm gonna call underline file underline data source dot write data. What's data, not date? So I think I need to change it here. So let's press Ctrl+Shift+R and change it to write data. Okay. Yeah, and also write data. What's the message? It's ui.lndata.text. I want to write it inside a file. It's very normal, and we don't use decorator pattern yet. And here I'm gonna say ui.ln_txt console.set text or append text. And what's the text? It's came from data source that read data. That's it. Let's see if it works or not, and then continue on decorating this behavior. let's go to Decorator pattern and sample data. I'm gonna write it inside the file, so sample data print in the console, and if I press read normal, it says that write only device. Well, I think we forgot to data source. Yeah, we need to, I think, use read write. Yeah, this one. Let's run the application one more time. Decorator 2, sample data, write it, and read data. So it doesn't return anything. Let's see why. Maybe we need to change also the cursor. For example, underline file dot seek 60, go to the start of the file, move the pointer of the file to the start or to the beginning of the file, and read all the data inside the file. Sample data 2, write it, yeah, and read normal. Okay, data 2, read from the file, and also let's add the channel name to the file, and I'll read it. Yeah, we have these two options, these two texts respectively. Now I want to decorate it. Before writing data into a file, I want to compress it and also encrypt it. So first, let's start with compression. For this purpose, we need to create a base decorator. So it's data source decorator. It contains a data source instance inside it, and in the write data, after we just tune up the message or data, compress it or encrypt it, we then pass it to our RAPI write data. So here we are going to add a data source decorator, and it's gonna inherit from data source. Also, let's change the name in this way. So that's it. And here I just need to declare a data source instance inside this class. Underline source, and I'm gonna receive an instance of data source in the constructor. Underline source should be initialized with the source arguments. Let's also change it to source, not underline. And that's it. So okay. What should we do next? Here I'm not going to implement methods, so I'm just gonna pass them to our subclasses. So what does it mean? It means that I need to create another class. This time it's compress decorator or compression decorator. Okay, and it's gonna inherit from data source decorator, and also let's so we have it here. We need to again receive a data source instance inside the constructor, and I'm just gonna pass it to my parent data source decorator. It's your RAPI object, and let's implement those functions here also. Inside these virtual functions, inside these functions, I'm just gonna call underline source, or let's change it to RAPI underline IP, please write this data into whatever you know. Okay, and also here I'm just gonna ask the underline IP, please give me some data. I want to return it back to the client's application. Now inside the compression decorator, I'm gonna add these two methods again at the implementation. So when I receive a data, I'm gonna change it, or this time I'm gonna attach a compressed label to the end of the data. So somehow I prepare data for the main action, and after that I'm gonna call data source decorator, write data and pass data to it. So here let's get data that append. I'm gonna attach a label compressed. Okay, I'm gonna attach data to this one, and that's it. Let's see if it's work. Let's do it in this way. Data equals to data plus dash compress, because maybe append is not working in place. So this is better. And when I want to read data, I'm going to say data source dot data source decorator read data, save it inside a local variable, and this time I'm gonna call the method something like this, data dot replace. So you need to uncompress it in real world example, but this time I'm gonna just replace the compressed label with nothing. That's it, and then return data to end user. So let's see if it works or not. This time inside the decorator dialog, I'm gonna add two other buttons. Oh, this is right. Compressed. I'm just gonna use C and read compressed that. Let's change it. btn read compressed, and this is btn write write compressed. Let's go to the clicker slots for both buttons. So here I'm gonna create, let's see what we are going to create. I don't want to initialize them inside the methods. Let's do it locally. I'm going to create a file data source, file source. It's equal to new file data source, and the file name is b.txt. So this is it, and then I'm gonna create compression decorator. What was the name? Compression decorator. Compression source equals to new compression decorator, and here we need to pass a data source, so I can easily pass the file data source. Also let's include the file compression, and I'm gonna call cs.write data ui.ln data.text. Pass the text to this decorator. So first, when we use this decorator, we can compress data or attach the dash compression to the text and write it into a file. And for reading, let's again copy this code here, and this time I'm gonna say, let's also grab it here. This time instead of data source, I'm gonna use cs compression source reads data. So again it's gonna let's see what we did inside the compressor. Yeah, here we're going to read data from our model, and it's a compressed data, so we then remove the compressed label and return the remaining data to the client. So let's see what we have. Okay, decorator 2, sample data. I'm gonna write it. So sample data dash compressed wrote to file. Let's also bring the file to see if we did really wrote it inside the file or not. So here is the output folder, and we have a b.txt here. If I opened it and if I drag it a little bit down, you can see sample data dash compressed wrote successfully into the file. So we decorate the original message, and let's call the read compressed data. As you can see, we just read sample data dash compressed and remove the dash compressed label and return the remaining text to the user. So this is the way that we can decorate our operations. Let's add the other decorator quickly. Okay, let's add the other one. The name is encryption decorator, and this one is also going to inherit from base decorator. So that's it. Implement the virtual functions. Yeah, just select them, and I'm gonna accept a data source inside the constructor, and we need to pass it to our parent. So data source decorator, this is your target component, and here I'm gonna make a copy from compression decorator and paste it here, and also this one. So this time I'm gonna attach this label dash inked dash ink, yeah, encrypted, as encrypted. Now that's it. So let's go to our demo dialog. This time I'm gonna append two buttons again. This is write compressed encrypted, and this is also read compressed encrypted, and maybe we should say read encrypted compressed. So we need to do things in reverse. So let's change the name also. This is btn write compressed encrypted and read encrypted compressed. Let's create click slot for this one and this one, and here I'm gonna make a copy of this code and paste it here, and this time we need to have another decorator. So encryption decorator, include the header files and its encryption source, encryption decorator, and this time we need to pass not fs, we need to pass our compress or compression source cs as the wrapper. So we have a chain of data source together, and here we're going to call es.write data. And again for this one, we have a data source, compression decorator and encryption decorator. We need to pass es here, and this time we need to call es from the code, and then inside this read we're just gonna call read data from our parent. So we here passed our compression as the parent, so inside the parent we read compressed data. Okay, and also let's do what? Let's do nothing. Let's run the application and see if this approach works or not. And I forgot to change the name of the file. Let's also change the name to this time c.txt and run the application one more time. Okay, it's for decorator pattern. This time I'm gonna again use the new sample data, write it using compression and encryption. So you can see we have a label attached, iron encrypted and compressed. Why this happened? Let's see what we have. Yes, writes data. So yeah, first I add the encryption, and inside the parent I add the compression. So first we encrypted data, and then after that we add the compressed label or postfix, and that's it. Let's see if we had it inside the output folder. Well, it seems that the name of file doesn't change. Let's see what we have. Okay, we just change it here. We need to change it in both places. Let's run the application one more time. Okay, decorator 2, sample data EC, encryption compressed, and write it. Right C, here we have the text inside our file. Let's check it. Here we have a c.txt file. Oops. Sample data EC encrypted compressed. And if I press read C, we should have sample data EC as our plain text, the text that we just wrote it here. So this is the way that we can use chain of decorators alongside with our target component class. I hope you enjoyed and make use of this pattern in your code. It's really useful when you want to extend the functionality of a class, existing class. Okay, till next session and another pattern. Goodbye.